Good afternoon, everybody, or good evening, I should say. I'm going to be with you guys briefly, just for a moment or two. Hope that you guys are doing okay. Some are not, some are. Your ability to recover is what matters. I pray that you do so quickly. We still have 6 or 7 weeks of hot temperatures in the Gulf. You guys know what that means, right? 2 more systems are headed towards the Gulf and could make a formation in the Gulf and could follow the same track as Milton and Helena. That's a fact. The waters are still warm, guys. So if anything forms in that vicinity, we're going to have another repeat of what we've been having, except this time, due to some of the temperature variants, there will be a push towards Texas. There will be. We're going to wait and see. We still have time for that. Again, going through something is tough, right? It's tough. Maturity happens when you repeatedly go through things. Your ability to rebound is critical. That's your learning stage. Many can go through things. Many will go through things. Your ability to continue to go through things and still remain operational, still remain sober, that's critical. And in fact, many of you are built for that. Please take note. None of us know our limitations. Our Father does. He knows what He sent us here for. He knows what He made us for. He knows what He purposed your life for. Never forget, your life is purposed. And your Father has that purpose. Okay? Your Father has that purpose. Remember that. Somebody says, why are we not hearing much about Helena? Well, it depends on who you're listening to. I have combed media, and they are talking about it. They are. It's sad. Both hurricanes did lots of damage. In fact, there are people right now still suffering. Not only in Asheville. Asheville seems to have garnered the attention of everybody concerning Helena. But there are people still suffering from Helena that did not live in North Carolina. They didn't live in Virginia. Take note of that. Right? There's still folks without power. There's still folks without water. And this is concerning Helena. Right? Still folks up the east, up and down the East Coast, whose lives are not put back together yet. So there are people in the dark. Right? There are folks still in West Virginia, parts of Virginia, North Carolina, obviously. The Appalachian Mountains were hit, Tennessee, all those places. They're suffering. They're still suffering. It's been a lot of, the death toll has not been reported completely yet either. I think that we'll find these were the 2 most destructive storms we have ever had. That's what we'll find out. They have caused an enormous amount of damage. They have set us back in the power grid. Everybody was looking for an EMP. Well, it turns out that hurricanes are more dangerous than EMPs. Mold, mildew are going to be a problem. We're going into the months where the sun is just different. Well, we know what happens when the spores of mildew and mold and all that stuff starts going out, and with these wet conditions and cooler climates and even hot climates, it's going to spread, cause respiratory illnesses. That's already beginning. It is. I pray that people are wise enough to take everything into account and learn well. Learn well. This is 2024. The beginning of such storms, not the end. They will get worse, more intense. They will. Florida, the water is still rising due to, places that have received too much water. Lots of people without power in Florida. Their death toll is going to rise as well. Lots of lost people. Lots of lost people. Somebody asks, Mike, is this an attack from Iran with these hurricanes? No, I don't believe so. No. I don't believe so because my centric focus is on the Word of God. It always is. And I'll always take into account the hostilities of people. Always. See, I know, listen, if you wonder sometimes how someone can call out certain events long before they take place, it's because of people. People. There are some incredibly violent people on the earth and vile people on the earth who conspire to do vile things against, you're talking about citizens of the USA who are plotting against citizens. You guys excuse me too. I've been attempting to assist as many people as I could. And I've been around lots of mildew. I mean, a whole lot of mildew, dust, and you name it. Anyway, you have, there's been a notable change in people. People are quite hostile. Storms will always follow the violence of mankind. Always. It's always been that way. It will always be. I know people would love a scientific explanation, something they can handle, something they can comprehend, right? Something they can have some sort of control over. Not this time. Not this time. Violence of mankind is increasing. It is. It's increasing. The elections are only going to make it worse. There are people plotting murders, and we're talking about citizens. See, normally, if you've taken notice, I don't really jump out of the scope of citizens of the nation. Right? I get that example from the Word of God. Foreigners, right? They can come in and they can do things. I'll tell you something. If intruders came into my house, it's up to the people of that house who have the ability to get rid of those intruders to act. But if the house is fighting against itself, if you have people in the house that are constantly against each other, I can tell you right now, anybody can break into that house and take it over. They can. We essentially face the same thing. A very dark force has turned citizen against citizen. It really has. It is nothing but absolute darkness that would cause what God created to hate one another yet again. Sad, isn't it? That's our nation. That's our nation. And so long as this continues, so will the conditions get worse and worse and worse. Okay, not to jump into that subject all the way. We'll save that. I'm going to talk a little bit about AI to you guys, just to make sure that you are really understand some things here. In fact, there are a few things I would like for you guys to have an understanding of, including an announcement today that was not announced. I'll explain. If you guys read headlines, you're reading sanctioned topics by government officials going out to the people in the USA. Because whatever shows, whatever is on the news, in any major media outlet, whatever is sanctioned, or not sanctioned, but whatever is approved, is in fact going to affect the entire earth, the whole world. Everybody is watching what the USA is doing. Everybody is watching how we react to events. Everybody is watching the resolve of the USA. And it does not look too well. Doesn't look good. Okay. Stand by, guys. Just a minute. And a small dropout. Just a moment. Okay, we should be good now. Set in. Back to what I was saying. Some of the articles that are being printed by mainstream media are in fact sanctioned topics, forecasts of things to come. One in particular was being shown, and it clearly is telling everybody the intention of the alliances, the Western alliances. Clear intentions, as it always does. Why do they do this? Because they have think tanks operating around the clock, constantly probing, seeing, discovering, studying, maneuvering people, right? You think this fight with Republicans and Democrats is something that just happened on its own? I tell you, we talked about that. Thank God for somebody found an audio in 2014 of the very thing we're living in right now. They wanted it to happen, and here we are. Here we are. They wanted this very thing to take place, and here we are. We talked about people behind it. See, essentially, God's people are doing, I'm not going to read those scriptures right now, but the Lord had given warning of his house, of what would happen in the end, right? The faltering of God's people, a faltering, an actual faltering. We're in that zone of faltering right now. I wonder if people knew about it, would they still, engage the world the same? Because this Republican-Democrat thing is tearing this nation to pieces. It's not going to repair so long as the feuds continue. God has a standing declaration towards any house that is in disarray. If a house is divided, one side against the other, that house will not stand. There's a promise of that house to fall. And it's happening. It is happening. All right. Now, before I begin telling you guys some of the forecasting that they're putting out to everybody via the news, or telling you their next steps, it is distasteful. It is shocking. Nonetheless, it's there. They have made that declaration, and I'm quite sure that hardly anybody picked up on it. It really takes being able to watch everything to see exactly what they're up to. And I told you guys before, the Lord has given me an ability to reason a bit differently. I can hear everything, right? I don't become emotionally compromised. If, however, you're trying to do the same thing and you become emotionally compromised, you're simply not ready. And I pray that you do get ready quickly, but you're not ready yet. If Satan can cause you to compromise your emotions, you're no good to the kingdom at that point. You have to regain control of what the Lord has given you, the ability to control of your body, of your mind. Spark your interest? Anybody? We're going to break that down. We're going to unpack some things. We're going to take a break and come back. Now, it is Saturday, and I really did not plan to be here for a long time. I don't know how much time you guys have. I don't want to hold you guys hostage, but I'm not sure how long this conversation is going to take. That depends upon the Lord's guidance. I know as for me, I would have rested, right? I would have. But for some reason, I'm being poked and prodded in a specific direction here lately. And to be candid with you guys, we simply don't have a lot of time. We don't. We really don't. So I had to do my part, getting as many people prepared as possible. Prepared for truth. Listen, guys, you can make preparations, right? You can be prepared for anything, but to be ready for something, well, that's on a total different level. You can often be prepared, but you may not be ready for things. You may not be. I'll be back in a minute right here at CoT, about 2 minutes. I'm going to let everything settle. I'll say it again. I don't know how long I'm going to be on air. I don't know. But we don't know. But we'll be talking about these subjects. I will unpack it when I get back. And do me a favor and ignore any type of strains you hear coming from my voice or any of those things. Just ignore it. That goes with the territory. Okay? Ignore it. All right. I'll be back in a few minutes right here at CoT, and we'll begin to unpack some things. I'll be right back. All right, everybody. In between those breaks also, I'm allowing this headset to charge up a little bit. I believe it got a little salty. Salt destroys. Batteries, another EV car burned up during the storms in Florida. Bring up another home, some more homes. Hopefully they make better batteries. Hopefully they do. Folks, well, hope you guys are recouping, getting yourselves together and getting ready. Get ready for some more of what we've been having, but at a much higher scale. Let me clue you guys in on something. The news. Often headlines are crafted, not haphazardly, but are, for the most part, very useful tools. Just so you guys know, there are, just like the Mossad, right? You guys are familiar with Mossad. The Mossad is a branch of the Israeli body of forces who go out into different countries and they assimilate with whatever country they're in, the culture. They never reveal their identity. They never do that. But they are embedded in multiple places. They give intel back to Israel. They are everywhere. It's kind of like the USA's Delta operators or CIA special operatives. Much like that, where they go out in the cultures and they become a part of that culture. For example, there are folks from the USA who live in South America. They are, in fact, they have taken citizenship in South America. You cannot tell them from the indigenous population, but they are in fact CIA, born here in America, educated, trained, right? They speak lots of languages, and they essentially watch everybody else and their useful embedded tools from time to time. Well, how do you get a message to those people? How would you tell your operatives who are in other countries what's what? How would you share your planning? You can't exactly use secured communications these days to do that. They don't do that. They haven't done that in a long time. There are unbreakable and you can't break into the communication they're using these days. They will use the news, major media, certain websites, all sorts of avenues of influence to communicate with those people in the field. So I want you guys to take note of something. Today, an article came out. The headline, I'm going to give the headline description in my own words. It described that the October 7th, Saturday, October 7th, during Kippur, that these Hamas acted against Israel when they popped up in Israel and were taking people. You guys remember that? Well, the headline implies Hamas operated alone, by themselves. The article implies that Hamas went to Iran to attempt to get Iran to join in, to help them out. The article implies that Hamas went to the Houthis, Hamas went to Hezbollah, Hamas went to several different organizations to attempt to have them to be inclusive in that operation. Iran confirmed it was solely the idea of Hamas. You guys see what's happening here? Whenever you see an article like that, where it isolates one type of army, and it essentially releases everybody else, they're telling you, they're communicating their next steps. And so in this case, the next steps will be Iran is going to be brought into the fold. Hezbollah, all these other terrorist organizations will be let off the hook, and Hamas is going to stand alone in this. The problem is most of Hamas is already dismantled in the public's eye, right? That leaves everybody else off the hook, which means talks are coming. Now, I can tell you right now, it does not matter who the American leader is. That leader will go along with whatever plans have been laid before them. Doesn't matter who they are. It really does not matter. It'd be nice if it did, but that's not the real world. That's why you have presidents who couldn't accomplish what they wanted to accomplish. Haven't you taken notice of that? None of these presidents were able to accomplish all of what they set out to accomplish, right? They haven't. You may ask, well, why do people like Trump so much? People like Trump's fiscal policies. They happened to, we were at the tail end, right, of something when he came into power. We went through some horrible times. And then when we came out of the pandemic, people were a bit happier. They were. They bought things. The economy instantly boomed. We all know that Trump is a businessman. He likes to make deals and negotiate. And people benefited from those deals and negotiations. They did. But they were also happier. Remember the pandemic? When it first started, nobody was happy. When people were wearing masks, nobody was happy. Right? Nobody was. But when it was over, and the masks came off, and life was going back to the way it was, people started spending money like crazy. That's what happened to our economy. The truth of it is that people who were not spending because they were on lockdown were no longer on lockdown, and everybody began to spend some extra money because they were happy. Right? They were happy. This time, things are different. This time, there is a control mechanism in place that will not be removed. This time, everybody's going to fall in line with a ruling power, period. This time. This ruling power is letting everybody off the hook except a defeated foe, who is Hamas. They are, in fact, a defeated foe. Yet you have the activities from the Houthis, Hezbollah, all these other groups which are still in power, still operational. Iran, they're going to let them off the hook. So you can look forward to the prophecies coming to pass even faster now. This will empower Iranian-backed militias to go forward with combined planning against Israel. This is part of a forceful disarming of Israel itself. The whole world is going to cry, we must never let this happen again. This can never happen again. And when they start to tally the cost of how much this incursion costs, and how much it costs for Israel to continue to strike others. When it hits close to the pocket, people in the USA are going to change their minds very fast. All that takes is a couple of politicians to start pointing your direction to weird things, and everybody jumps behind them. Later. That's where we are. Just so you know that. They plan on letting Iran off the hook. They're going to let everybody off the hook except Hamas, who is a defeated foe. Hope you guys really understand that. Because they know the general census in these countries. They know what that is. They know what they have. They know what they don't have. They know what they're about to lose. But they also know that the world must go forward. They know that. Get yourselves ready to see what you never thought you'd see. See, every time we start discussing this, I don't think people get themselves ready. And then they start seeing things they never thought they'd see. Because every year, people end up saying the exact same thing. How they cannot believe what's taking place. Time for us to more than believe it. Let's get ahead of it, shall we? So that we can remain operational for the sake of the kingdom of God, no matter what takes place. Be prepared for everything. Make it up in your minds to be operational. You're children, citizens of the kingdom. You're meant for the time, for this very time that you live in. This is your time. You're meant for this time. You're not going to go through anything that's too heavy for you. You're not. The Lord will never place upon you that beyond what you can bear. So anything you go through, you're going to be able to handle. But get yourselves ready to see prophecy unfold. Not in the popular way either. It's not going to happen in the popular way. It never has historically, and it's not going to do so now. Pride often makes us think we're right. When dealing with prophecy, we know that. We already know that. And we hate to be wrong, but folks, things are coming. They're going to be trying to the best of us. Be ready for it. Be ready for it so that you can be functional for your families, for your loved ones, for your fellow believers, so you can be effective. And everybody stand by. I got to cool it off. It's heating up in here very fast, too fast. Let's see if I can cool it down real quick. I feel like a tamale. All right. So you know that about Iran and policy concerning the Middle East. They're going to let these people off the hook, so the outcome is not going to be what you think. Prophecy will take place. Maybe not in the way that you thought, but it will take place. These times that we're about to go through are not going to be neatly packed up and arranged in a way that is easily consumable by anybody. No. They're going to be chaotic at best. And you will have to deal with dozens of fronts. Not just war, not just weather, but dozens of other things. It's your time to maximize. I do know this. If we stay within the Word of God, we will be victorious. Period. We will. We most certainly will. Certainly. All right, guys, so listen. Now, I am one who does not discount history. I'm going to remind you guys of something. Clear your heads real quick. Everybody clear your heads. I want you guys sober for this one. Clear your heads. You all do realize. Do you realize what happened prior to 1947? Anybody? Somebody share with me what happened before Israel was declared a nation again by the UN General Assembly in 1947. Somebody tell me what happened. Anybody? Somebody tell me what happened. Somebody says World War I and World War II. That's right. And what happened in World War I and II? How many people died in the world during that time period? You ready for this? Half. Half the world died. Half. See, it wasn't just a war. No, it was disease. You guys remember in the South America, the animals that were feeding and feasting off people and soldiers? Forget about those things, don't we? We have a bad habit of forgetting everything that came prior to us. We also have a bad habit of understanding that all these things came within the scope of a generation, one generation, not two, just one. We forget about that too much. Because we forget about that too much, we often feel that things are on the rise. We have forgotten a great toll is already ensued. We don't know where we're at. We don't. Because we discard what has happened before. We do. I can't do that, of course. I can't. I've shared this with you guys before. It's funny how Sister Heidi mentioned her time issue, right? It's funny. Well, to me, it's almost like time does not exist. That can be good and bad at the same time. In other words, I tend to see things in the scope of large time intervals, not these short ones, right? Many people this week, until they saw that hurricane, they were living it up like nothing had taken place on the earth. That's incorrect. I want you guys to remember what Jesus said. And he had this written in the book of Revelation through John on the Isle of Patmos, and John has very interesting history. But he said the time is at hand. He said that 2,000 years ago. He said the time is at hand 2,000 plus years ago. +2,000 years ago. How many things in Revelation do you guys think has taken place? How many things? What are the more popular ones? What about the 4 horsemen? Or the 4 spirits spoken about in the Old Testament, promised to be released by the living God upon the earth? The same ones that cause. What do they essentially cause? First horse. It's a white horse. A guy's riding it. He has a bow in his hand, no arrow. Here's a crown. He goes forth to conquer. Right? So a spirit that goes out to all the people of the earth, and especially the kings of the earth, giving them a mindset to conquer. A war-type mentality. Always be puffed up and other leaders. Have you guys noticed that's been happening all this time? Hopefully you have. I hope you have. I really do hope you have. Why do I mention that? You're going to see what's not been seen. And it's guaranteed to shake up your world. There are secrets in the world, yes. There are things that people have not seen, but God has given you a hint of all of it. The world is soon to see what it was not ready for. When the world sees what's been here all this time, it's going to cause a real fear to come over people. Many will have heart attacks and die on their feet. Those who see the incredible things and then have heart attacks are normally those who were arrogant in the first place, refusing to believe outside of their own mindset. This is something we must never do. Leave fulfillment of prophecy in the hands of your Father in heaven. Never be the one that's right about God's prophecies, but always seek to have them revealed within yourselves. We're not the craftsmen of prophecy. That's not what we are. You guys, you get that little piece, right? That little tiny piece. It's because these next events are going to seem so far out of timing. People are going to be utterly confused. And I know when people are confused about spiritual things, they can often lose hope. I am by no means complicit with certain scriptures that foretell that people are going to fall away. And that's been underway for some time now. But I am not complicit with that. That disturbs me. It does. If you've ever made a wrong decision in life, and then you are delivered from that, the issues it caused, and you start to see somebody else make a wrong decision, and then you attempt to help them out, but they don't want your help, and they won't listen to you, and they really believe they have it under control. When that happens, and they end up being destroyed. Not good. To be complicit with your own idea of what will happen, you're setting yourself up for massive depression. You're setting yourself up for what the heathen will go through. You're not to go through those things. You're not. Things will be shown to us. Remember, God is the expert in his own word. He is. He'll never fail to share it with us. But his prophecies are not ideas. They're not fascinations. I pray that we're sober about them. Pray that we are. Anyway, World War I and II consumed a lot of lives. War in between there consumed a lot of lives. We've been going through wars ever since. Genocides. We've lost species on this earth. We've lost a countless number of people to animal life on the earth. Disease, famine, various plagues. These things are sweeping the globe, and they're all about to get a whole lot worse. Can you guys remember that? That way, when you start to look at what's happening in the world, and you see the unbelievable, you won't have a heart attack, but you will be functional during a time where people need you the most. Please don't let Satan be victorious in your life. He will have it so. You only believe the end times in a specific way. All right. Now that we have that out the way, that means the unseen things, get ready for them. Get ready for them. They will affect everything. That's going to begin with AI is going to be responsible for quite a bit of the revealing of things. I mean, quite a bit. Well, let's put it this way. AI of those around you is going to open the eyes of the average person. And in that day, nothing goes back to what it used to be. Nothing. In that day, the true fear is going to settle into the hearts of those who were so confident that nothing existed outside of what they could see. They're going to be ill-prepared. That is to say, they won't be prepared. Not mentally. Not spiritually. They won't be equipped to handle what is happening and will be plucked out of sight. That is not your destiny. AI. Well, let's talk about something, guys, because in November, the release of a few things is coming out. Somebody says, are black circles in the sky portals? You don't want my answer. You don't want my answer. You really don't. Portals? No, but you don't want my answer. You don't, not yet. Not yet. It could make people angry. It could. See, I'll say it again, people. I see things almost like in a very odd way, right? I don't fall for the okie doke. I see something different. I think I utilize every ounce of discernment the Lord gives me. And do you guys know what most of those circles are? Do you know what they are? Anybody? Looks like a smoke ring. You're talking about those. Looks like a smoke ring for a second, right? Then it goes away after a while. Sometimes they can stay aloft for 20 minutes, right? Is that what you're talking about? Okay. But you have to do something for me first. I want you to go to Burger King, find a Burger King in the morning when they start up the broiler. You're going to see a black smoke ring that will go straight up in the air and that it'll stay a smoke ring, sometimes for up to an hour. I just want you to see that. Okay? And then you tell me. Because it just so happens, in every single place where you see these smoke rings, there's a boiler in the same vicinity of the smoke ring. See, I tell you folks, some folks, they have sensationalized so much, right, that they forget about the common things, the small things, the little details, right? Those little known facts. It's kind of like some of the footage that you'll see of these orbs that move back and forth on a camera, or they look like lines in surveillance cameras, right? Vertical lines moving all over the place, and people say, oh, it says, what is that? It's an angel, but it's moving back and forth. They're parallel to each other. They make the exact same movements. Spider webs. 9 times out of 10, those are spider webs. Anyway. Now you know. Now you know. Now you know. All right. So folks, just do your own homework and look and see. When you see one of those smoke rings, right, then look on Google Earth or Google Maps. Look for a Burger King or some such restaurant that broils food. And you're going to find it. You'll find it. I'm pretty confident that you'll find it. People attempt to, listen, when you're dealing with YouTube, people are out there to make money, to get hits. They want money. So they will agree to say anything that will get you to go in there to look at their video so they can make money. There you are. Everybody good so far? Everybody okay? Back to AI. Unfortunately, the release of certain aspects of AI are going to turn everything on its head very soon. They will. Just to give you an example of something with AI. Right now, in session is a body of people. These are lawmakers. They're attempting to draft yet another bill that will protect a human being from having their minds read. Can you guys imagine that? They don't want your mind read, right? This group says it's wrong. How does that work, though? Okay, they have bionic prosthetics, right? See, if you have a leg that's now bionic, That leg has AI in it. How is it going to move like your other leg or carry out functions based on your nervous system? Because it can read your mind perfectly. It can extract the data, that data, for that specific person. It will keep building on things just like that. Everybody good so far? I know most people don't like that, but that's just the way it is. Those units, bionic units, are working flawlessly right now, though. Flawlessly, right? There's a lot of feedback from the folks who are involved in pilot programs with this technology. Those same people play video games with their mind now. They don't use controls. They can anticipate the movement of everybody else. Why is that, you ask? Because the processing of artificial intelligence and thinking of the human mind essentially become one when you have one of these bionic units. That's point number 2. That means they provide a pathway for you to access immediate information of anything you want to know through AI. Now, just imagine the feedback is this. It's almost like all of a sudden you become the smartest person on the earth. With a snap of your fingers, you have access to everything. Anything you could eternally think about, you have access to. Access to it. You guys start to see it now? A bunch of people walking around who are incredibly smart. All right. Anybody have any questions so far? I know it's a tough one to swallow, but here it is. Oh, by the way, it has nothing to do with blood types or any of that. So blood type, it doesn't matter. That stuff doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter. What they're doing fully synthetic level. Right? Doesn't matter what DNA is. Anybody have questions about that little piece? Anybody? You will see this technology in quite a few places in November of 2024. That's not too long from now. You'll see it. You will see it. Somebody says, wait a minute. Okay, I'm at 7. Hold on, guys. My mouse is going haywire over here. There we go. We're getting back. Here we go. Let's get there. Hold on just a minute. Okay, there we go. Should we prepare for chemical warfare? Next suspicious airburst over. Well, listen, it's very difficult to prepare for chemical warfare unless you have some protective suits to wear. If you have, MOP 4, something like that, great. MOP is mission-oriented protective posture. It's an outfit that protects you from chemical attacks. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to prepare for that. Be knowledgeable of these things and know how they're deployed and what they can do, yes. So you can get over the initial shock of those things in existence in the first place. Also know, Iron Dome will incinerate any inbound missile like that with chemicals on board. Incinerate it, so there'll be nothing left. They got that idea from Patriot, but Patriot missile systems, and it works. It works. So you can try to be, prepared for that. But that is I personally believe that the grunt of that is going to be held for the condemned of this earth. Either way, if the Lord has something for you to do. Okay. Somebody said, Mike, AI relates dark ones to do with the tech. It's in the early images. Well, listen, AI is something inspired over many years that has been made on this earth in architecture that essentially allows the technology to become one with your mind. All right, guys, let's see. Somebody says, now I understand what God has been preparing me for all this time. Mike, what if we already got metal in us? I got metal in me. Jimmy crack corn on that one. I have lots of shrapnel. Too many mishaps. That doesn't matter. Everybody's scared of that. It's not going to impede nor enhance AI. AI is simply AI. Here's one aspect of things that people should consider. Back in the 70s, AI was a platform developed at MIT with live brain tissue, and they found that the brain tissue loved the architecture, and it began to instantly grow. Should we take iPad tablets? Well, that will be founded on what? For what radiation? Do you guys think that the elite want to die? How many of you think that the elite want to die? I don't think they do. I think they're going to do everything they can do to save their own skins. That's what I think. They live here on this earth, right beside you. They're the ones concerned about the atmosphere, truth be told. They are the ones concerned about volcanism. They are the ones concerned about the prophecies of the living God. That will come to pass and mess up their mojo. They're the ones concerned. You shouldn't be. None of you should be. Okay. Somebody says, you said we were exposed to everything. Will we be protected by our Father? You're alive right now. That's evidence that your Father loves you. The truth is, you don't know what you've been exposed to. Many of you were born in an environment that's very hostile to life. You were. You've been ingesting experimental things since you've been here on this earth. You are still alive. Only your Father can do that. All right, everybody. Mike, this volcanism have to do with the pit being opened. The bottomless pit? Well, we're going to find out. We'll certainly go into a deeper category concerning that. I don't want to share that ID here, right? Because it's part of one of my presentations now. I actually made a graphic depicting, or some graphics you could say depicting some things. In fact, I made it a habit to develop a graphic every day, every single day, every day. Because listen, one day, very soon, many people who are going to need a specific library on their device, they will search and search and search for the Lord's things, and the library fits on a 64 gig SD card with images and everything else, and that would be a good addition to your phone. Also, some instructions will exist to show you how to take your telephone and to utilize some of the more common things inside of it. So listen, if you have an old cell phone, right? I'll say it again. If you have an old cell phone that was made between 2016 and 2018 or 19, try not to get rid of it. I know it's too late for some of you, but you still have folks around you who have access to a little older tech. Okay, guys, listen, I'm going to take a break just for a few minutes. I'm watching a few things out here in the Middle East, just checking to see if we're going to have some issues in about several hours. There's still a lot of fighting. I'm also watching the death toll for Florida, unfortunately, and for Tennessee, and for the Carolinas and Virginias. Watching that too. Also, I'm watching what the forecast models are saying about this hurricane. Are they actually giving it something quite interesting? That at some point, I'll tell you what. I'll let that one stay too. I'll let it stay with a specific presentation. I'll do that. Back to AI. Get yourselves used to the fact that you're in a world where AI is an intimate part of your life right now. It's not going to be part of your life. It's part of your life right now. You have completed your own profile. Each one of you have. In my mind, now the supercomputers, the large data units, the large server farms, they're going to be put up all over the place, everywhere. All that will be for AI, for its memory. The platform of AI concerns me. It does. Because right now with AI, any hidden figure can pop up, grow, be nourished, consume everything it can consume, manipulate people, and have people following a different doctrine by Christmas time. That's how fast it is and efficient it is. Many things are utilized right now to get you to calm down, to get you to, become violent, to engage you, to disengage you, and people are falling for it every single day. With the introduction of AI, bad actors who have access to this technology are going to make it worse. All technology comes with responsibility. And with every piece of technology, there is a criminal who knows how to use it for, the sake of themselves. That we'll discuss. So you guys are really... Someone says, can I read my own profile? No, you wouldn't understand it. You would. Well, I guess actually you could. It depends on how in-depth your knowledge is of the basics, or I'll say not the basics, but the base of programming is, right? Some of the older people who still use C++ and things like that, they know how to tear down the architecture of Windows and of, iOS. Then you can actually see what's working behind the scenes. The other people who rely solely upon desktops, who essentially have their site built, those folks, they don't know about that yet. Not yet. Okay. Folks, I'll be back in about 2 minutes right here at CoT. I'm going to give the headphones a little time to charge, 2-minute charge. I'll be right back. And then we have to talk about could something settle into AI? Something I strongly believe, something I witnessed more than a few times, and something you're going to put together. We're going to put that together right now so you guys can at least meditate on it. I personally cannot ignore what the Lord has shown me. I won't deviate from what the Lord has shown me. And to be truthful with you, if it turns out to be absolutely wrong, well, then it's going to be wrong. It is. But there's going to be a problem if it turns out wrong. Be a problem. There's no way a person would have absolute belief in the Messiah. Folks, I'll be right back in just a couple minutes right here at CoT. Let's see. I think it's that one. Yep, it is. Okay. All right. Now I'm talking again. Finally. Isn't it funny how, I'm not going to name it, but somebody else is talking about artificial intelligence at the same time CoT is? Are you kidding me? Listen. The world is changing all around you in no small part due to AI. It's a war. It really is a war of dependencies that everything is going to lose except AI. How do we know this? Because of the usage. The usage of AI went from, tens of thousands to hundreds of millions in less than a month, less than 4 months. You guys do understand that at least 3/4 of the world is going to be utilizing AI in less than 2 weeks from now. You know that, right? Less than 2 weeks. It's in fact an exponential number. Why? Because it is so incredibly useful. It is. Now, while it's useful, it's going to pull people away from their core value system. It will. It's already doing that. And one of the biggest minds is waking up, and nothing will stop it. So let me just tell you guys the obvious. Now, they've been pushing for this new iPhone, correct? Everybody knows about the new iPhone. How many people know about the new iPhone? I'm trying to let you guys know what time you're in today so that you don't think things are coming. So you understand you're right in the middle of something. You're right in the middle of the emergence. But they've been pushing this new iPhone, right? You guys know about that? How many people know about the new iPhone? Because if you don't, the rest of the world does. And activations of this new iPhone have been off the scales. That means the whole world couldn't wait to get their hands on it. They're taking your old crushed phones, non-working phones, phone parts, and they're going to give you a brand new iPhone. They'll do it too. Why? Because it has Apple AI. It has artificial intelligence in the phone. Now listen to me carefully. 3/4 of the world is going to have one of these iPhones in less than a few weeks. That's a lot of people. A lot of people. Now, what does that mean? That means we're talking about overseas. We're talking about in the U.S., outside the U.S. We're talking about everywhere. Listen to me close. It has Apple AI. It's going to be positioned all over the earth. Do you not realize that one iPhone is enough to run a couple of neural nets? Do you understand that? That's the brains of AI. Neural net. Now with the positioning of these phones, well, once the system is fully awakened, well, it'll be fully awakened. That's going to happen in a couple of weeks. And well, when that happens, okay. So with these iPhones all over the world, right? What do you guys think will happen? What does that make? It essentially makes the world a brain. That's what it makes the world, a brain. And who's going to be susceptible to that brain? The folks that are susceptible now. Young kids. Well, when I say young, I mean kids who are probably below the age of 36. They're using it right now. They depend upon it right now. They would rather go to it than go to their, family, than go to their bosses, than go to their professors, whatever the case is. What am I telling you? That a large percentage of this world is being run by AI right now. You guys start to see it? Okay. Somebody says AI would be their best friend advisor. They're already their advisor at work, at school. Already there. It's already there. Some of the more masterful processing centers are running at full, they're almost their full potential, just to feed the need out there. What does that mean? That means we have an alternative thing here on this earth that will further change what's happening. So let me give you a clue of what's happened already. As I said before, if you think that this feud between Democrats and Republicans is some sort of mistake, it is not. It is purposed. Not by our Father, but by people. They're the ones that continue to stoke the fires in this. Because people will not really forgive. The violence rises. Okay. Yeah, skipping a little bit, but we'll get that out. We'll get that out of here, guys. That's partially my fault. I'm not in a what would you say a good spot right now. Not quite yet, and so sometimes there's going to be some hang-ups. It'll eventually catch up. It'll catch up here. And I got knocked off a couple times. That's been happening. But it's okay. We'll get through this. I want you guys to know about AI, though. I need you guys to know about AI. Why? Because right now people are doing exactly what was proposed in 2016. And this is something even I am having an issue with. Let me share with you guys why I get so passionate about is number one, there's a reason you cannot talk politics with anybody around you. They have purposely made the subject like that. They have made people, you know what, they used to laugh at, they used to have conversations. I used to hear those conversations back in the 80s, how they would laugh and say, we can make people fight for anybody we want. I used to hear that in disbelief. I don't disbelieve that anymore. I don't. There are people that laugh at other folks, how gullible they said they are. Right? And it's true, because you guys know you can't change your mind. You just can't change your mind about certain things these days, right? And if you take a side, some people take a side so they can live in their own neighborhoods. Isn't that awful? Some people have to be of a specific orientation of politics so they can live in their own neighborhoods, so they can have some semblance of peace. Sad. They have people fighting over something that's outside of them. So sad. Over something that is not even real. They have people fighting for. And all this was already documented. And people are doing it. It is just incredible. It's incredible that of all the people that are at odds, the Christian people are at odds the most. Do you know that? That's why I'm so passionate about people trusting in their Savior and not falling for this stuff that mankind keeps dishing out. They're the ones that turn you all against each other. Mere men did this. They did this. How many folks here you cannot talk politics, or you don't feel comfortable talking about your favorite candidate or something like that with a group of people you don't know in the church? I can almost guarantee that a lot of people do not feel at ease talking to other groups of people about politics because it's so violent, right? There's a spirit associated with it. Let me remind you guys of something. Our Father in heaven does not inspire violence against humanity. Satan does. Satan does. Somebody asks a question through Robin. They said, Mike, Jeremiah 49:35, breaking the bow of Elam, is that Iran? Breaking the bow of Elam, is that Iran? That's a... Back in the day, there were geographical locations, places that were in geographical locations that had a specific spirit. We live in the new world, you could say, and there are certain places that have the exact same name they used to, but they're totally different places. I know it doesn't make sense now, but it will in a small little... We're going to have to talk about some geography versus the spiritual nature of things. It's kind of like Jezebel. If you can be mindful about Jezebel, then you would understand the nations. In the Old Testament, it talked about physical people, physical places, right? Okay. We had that again. Somebody says, yes, still talks to another. Yeah, this feud of politics is, in fact, you know what my belief is? It is highly demonic. Highly demonic. And I'll tell you something. I discuss politics all the time with a diverse set of Christians. And there's not one argument that happens. Do you know why? Do you know why? Because we put the Father first. We put Christ first. The violence that rises up within a person is indeed unnatural. It's an unnatural violence. It's an unnatural violence. Because in every single case, hear me on this, in every single case, what ends up happening is people end up saying, we want our nation back the way we want it, and somebody is stealing it from us. It's the same old adage, but I do not believe. Let me tell you something. I know a lot of, I'm going to bring up something controversial. How many people of color do we have in the house tonight? Because I'm going to bring up something that needs to be that's likened to the same thing. All right, and I'm the guy in the bushes who talks about things nobody would dare bring up. But if anybody has ever been in the service, right, especially back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, you would have heard people say that, especially oppressed people, we know about racism in this country. We know about that, so let's not be strangers. But what you may not know is that people of color used to say they couldn't do this or that because they would say the white man is trying to stop them or something like that. They would use that type language. That's what they were saying. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it up. That's exactly what they were saying. And we know about racism. Why did they ever say that? Because it used to happen, right? If you were of color, you couldn't get a job. You couldn't there's certain things you couldn't do in this country. Point blank, you couldn't do it. We know about that. I don't know why in the world we ignore something so rudimentary, something that was so blatant in this country. So we know about that. But you have people right now in certain parts of the country who still believe in the same thing. Listen to me. They still believe that anytime something goes wrong, anytime they don't get the promotion or something like that, that's a Caucasian did it. That's what they believe. I talked to a guy personally who said the same thing. There wasn't a Caucasian within 100 miles of this person. I said, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? That's an ideology of something that used to be. In this day and age, although it exists in pockets, right? And it can easily be bought back in this day and age. That's not the way it's working. It's just not the way it's working, right? But I want to bring up that statement that a group of people got used to the idea that somebody was taking their employment away from them. The same blame, the same victimization thing. Now, it was true a long time ago. Listen to me. It was true a long time ago. In most cases, it is not true today. When you start blaming, and this is where it begins, this is the biggest door to darkness you will ever see. When you start blaming someone for something, you're going to find yourself blaming everybody for something. Then you're going to start you're going to start blaming all the negativity in your life on somebody else. And when you go down that path, you never assume responsibility. So let me share this with you. I faced opposition in this world a lot. I'll always overcome the odds because I don't blame anybody. Have you noticed? I'll never blame a soul. I don't do that. Any failure, right? Any type of, any failure I've ever had in life, I never blamed anybody. People would actually get mad at me because, in fact, there are certain things that happened that were caused by somebody else, but I would assume all responsibility. And they would get upset. Why do you assume responsibility of that? My answer was, because I have the ability to communicate better and better so that we can reach a better outcome. Or I would say because it was under my watch. And I'm the one that could have interceded. I missed that. I shouldn't have missed it, so it's all on me. See, I can always find a way to assume responsibility. I can never find a way to blame. In my life, I'm constantly moving forward. I am never stuck. You'll never hear me say someone is trying to take something away from me. Do you know why? I assume responsibility. That's why. Listen to me, if you can. I know that people are, this rhetoric in the world forbids conversations like this. It does. It's a shame. But they have made it to where you can't even talk about the root problems that we now face. They're not going to be remedied because when you start to talk about them, people get too offended and start fighting each other. But the truth is, nobody is assuming responsibility. That's the problem. Everybody is blaming like a bunch of children. They're blaming. You will never read of a successful leader historically that blamed anyone. You will never read that. Do you know that? You'll never read that. A leader will assume all responsibility. Okay. Well, you guys still with me so far? Somebody said the blame game, yes. It's very destructive. And so far, that's all you hear. You don't hear anybody saying, you know what, guys, we could have implemented something far better. That's not what you hear. You're hearing blame. You know what happens when a person blames another? Ask a person who's hooked on methamphetamines. Ask him. When a person never assumes responsibility. Ask them. Ask him. Somebody said, Mike, did you see Barack Obama? Let me see what he said. Mike, did you see Barack Obama just did an interview criticizing black men for not supporting Kamala Harris? Well, no, he asked them a question. I read the headlines, right? I read the headlines. He asked them a question, that's all. That's all he did. He asked them a question. People are so divisive these days, right? That even in that, he didn't criticize them or anything. He asked them a question, is what he did. They put down criticized, right? Because it sticks better. They ran with it. Not defending it. Because he's sitting there, he essentially said, can you trust a guy who's thrown everybody that ever worked for him under the bus? And would you trust that guy who treats his own people poorly? You think he's going to treat you any better and your people of color? Essentially, that's what he said, right? I still have yet to see a true leader stand up and say, you know, this is all on us. Who's saying that? That's not what they're doing. They're blaming. See, I can't take the blame thing. I can't do that. I can't take that. I've seen leaders who blame others. They will never assume responsibility. They will always hurt people as they go forward. They leave a trail of carnage behind them. I don't ignore the carnage, and I certainly don't side with anybody who's ready to kick somebody to the curb like that. No. When a person stands up and they say, you know what? We did this. We can do better than what we have done. And really take the reins and go in the direction of change, not by blame, but by assuming responsibility. See, because if a person assumes responsibility, you better believe they're already ready to pour themselves out into doing everything they can for people, not for half the people. That strategy has never worked. whether it be Kamala Harris, whether it be Trump, whoever it is, when you start doing things for half the people, there are other people who did that too. And they have a name for such people. I'm still waiting for someone to assume responsibility. For someone to say, I could have taken an additional step. For someone to go higher to a higher standard. Mark my words. All of us find ourselves well, I guess we'll have to continue to wait for that. Huh? We will. We have to continue to wait for that. But it's not coming. You guys know it's not coming. We live in a time now where something else is going to take full authority. This is how the authorities of nations is going to be lost. Too many people can be bought these days. I'm sorry, they can. They can be bought these days. I know that people are looking for real change. It's not coming. Demonic change is coming. Faster and faster. And I'm begging of you guys, don't let Satan knock the air out of you when it happens. He already told us he's going to maximize this blow. Well, folks, somebody says, no, it's not only people who use meth, but a meth addict, right? There's a spirit associated with meth that causes a person to repeatedly lie. Have you noticed? It doesn't matter who the person is. Once they start doing meth, there is a spirit that goes along with the weakness meth causes. A lot of people believe there's a demon associated with every single drug, right? I believe the drug does something chemically to the body in which a demonic entity can easily enter into a person or work through a person. In the case of meth, because a person has such a desire or an appetite for the methamphetamines, right? It actually opens a door for a person to say just about anything to put them in a position to get more. That's what I believe. That's what I believe. And I just firmly believe that. That goes with every single drug, every single type of substance. All right, guys, you got any questions from me so far? Anybody? Why does it feel like it's still early? It feels like it's quite early. The beast, the Antichrist himself, is coming sooner than expected. Man is hitting a part of his life, part of his existence, where man is so frustrated right now. If you say the wrong thing around the wrong person, see, somebody says, bring it back, where are we at? Boy, did I lose it again? There we go. Somebody said, wait, why are states legalizing marijuana? Same reason they legalized alcohol. Right? Same reason. Okay, everybody with me so far? I am tired, though. But don't worry about that. Just ignore it. Just ignore the tiredness. Where were the white plasma balls in this hurricane? They were in the eruption, too. They're all over the place. Do you guys, well, that's a midnight hour discussion, but there are forces upon this earth. There are forces, many different forces. Forces people are going to be acquainted with. And when they are acquainted with them, some will cry in absolute despair of how wrong they were. Some will be in absolute shock because they're not who they thought they were. Somebody says, okay, where's your top concern you're preparing for, Mike? Betrayal. Betrayal. Despotism causes betrayal. Despotism. I have to keep my heart ready for that. I have to stand ready, so if anybody betrays me at any level, I can forgive them instantly. See, in my life, nothing is going to interfere with my relationship with Christ or cause me to dishonor that relationship. That's already happened too many times before. It's my personal responsibility to believe his word. That keeps me ready for anything that comes, actually, to believe his word. Betrayal is coming. And when it comes, people are going to be so upset they're going to forget that they have a relationship with Christ. I'm telling you what I know. Okay, let's see. Oh, Walter Ray question. There is Walt. Let's see. Is there any significance to the seamless garment that Jesus wore? And if so, oh, where'd it go? And if so, what are your thoughts? Well, you know what? When it comes to the garment that Jesus wore and some of the relics that were left in times past, I know a lot of people find great significance to that. And I can see that. I really can't see that. But see, I'm so focused on the person of Christ, I really don't really regard anything else. I'm so focused on his principles and to be in compliance of what he called good. See, because here's the deal. It just so happens that what Jesus called good, I actually believe is good. And what he called evil, I can see it's evil, right? And now I need to remind you guys, since we talked about race, do you know that each person sees differently? They see the world differently. They process information differently. A Caucasian is going to see the world different from an African. An African is going to see the world different from a Native American. A Native American is going to see the world different from, an Asian. An Asian is going to see it different from a European. A European is going to see it different from even of their own kind. Of a person in some of the northern quadrants. They're going to process information differently. Some people will see the world with a bit of entitlement in certain areas. In other words, they're going to have all their thoughts include ownership. Did you know that? This will get you. You ready? Many of you, your thoughts include ownership. You cannot help but to think of ownership when you're talking about throughout the course of your day. Did you know you have an opposite? Some people talk and they do things, but in their mindset and their course of processing information, they have no ownership of anything. In other words, when they look at the world and nothing belongs to them. Did you know that? Nothing is theirs. So you have some people who have that deep-seated core thought of ownership as they discuss things. And you have those who are the opposite. Did you know that? But did you really know that all the races have very unique and specific ways that they think? If you would ever find out those thought processes, you could love every single race out there, because then you could be able to communicate with anybody. You really could. That's when you can put yourself in somebody else's shoes. You can see where they're coming from. makes you a better communicator. Why do I think of weird stuff like that, you may ask? Right? Only the guy from the bushes does that. I cannot help but to hear people. And when I mean really hear them, right? I want you guys to think of something. You may have an enemy out there, somebody who does not like you. And they did not become evil on their own. Okay, guys. Let's see. Where are we at? Let me get you guys scrolled back down here again. So as you can see in communication, when you're communicating with people, if you know that about folks, right, you can understand people a bit better. You can really understand people. And it takes away this centric thought of assumption when you're dealing with communicating with other people. And in that respect, you can assume responsibility of things that go wrong, but only if you know where a person is coming from when they speak, right? If you spoke to a person who spoke and they had a core belief of ownership, they're going to speak to you from a very different perspective than what you're used to. They will. Consequently, if another person spoke to you and they have no concept of ownership of anything, they're going to speak from a very different perspective, like an outsider, right? Like the disenfranchised. And they will do that naturally. If you understand that too, you can communicate with them also. You really can on very deep levels. Very deep levels. It also causes healings when you can understand where a person is coming from. And then eventually, that person who speaks with the idea of ownership can also see the other ways that people speak and what elements are inclusive in their language. And when that happens, barriers are torn down. Love is established. True bonds are established. I'm telling you, there are bonds that exist within people that nothing in the heavens nor in the earth has power to break. Do you know that? That's a fact. But that requires understanding. Right? My pursuit of Christ is by way of that understanding. I'm not the one who's right. The Lord is. That's always centric in my views. The Lord is the expert in his own words, not me. You just missed all that. You just missed all that. Thanks, Mixler. Yeah. Mixler's messing up a little bit. Somebody says, bottom line is the fact that the antichrist is going to own it all. Good. And somebody says they can see that ownership or no ownership. They can see that. Very good. Because with those two thoughts comes entitlement or rejection, just a host of associated mindsets that really explain why some people become instantly offended or some people fight for things they really shouldn't or don't have to. Right? It really demonstrates that. When that is seen of a person, the healing can begin. Folks, let's see what time is it. 8:30. Excellent. You gotta do better than that. You're doing pretty good. But somebody said you briefly mentioned boogie spirits. Is that boogie spirits? Is that what you wrote down? Boogie spirits a while ago and said you would say more later. Yeah, we will in a midnight hour. I tell you, talking about spirits, right? Because I can't talk about spirits just to talk about spirits because they're an everyday part of your life. Believe it or not, you interact with them all the time. You do. Believe it or not, many of you live by their ideologies. I know, but you do, right? When you learn that you've been living by the ideologies of darkness, what do? Folks, are all these solar flares making people dizzy? No, you guys know what radiation does to the body, right? Dizziness is a symptom of your flesh, right? Most people are nutritionally starved right now. One of the biggest things is that most people are dehydrated on a continuous basis. All those contribute to quite a few health problems. If you could begin to reverse that, you'd find yourself getting a whole lot better. Now, I know that in this day and age, it is it's difficult to think of something that you end up doing every single day of your life. I know that. But most people should hydrate. They really should. Let the bodies adjust, deal with pressure very differently. Headaches will go down a bit and get that minerals back in their bodies again. Yeah. Help everybody out. No, but I do not think they're associated with just, solar flares or something like that. We have induced radiation upon the earth, and it's increasing in certain areas. I think it has to do with the plant life. I really do. Okay, folks, let's see. Question, has the U.S. given up a portion of sovereignty to the UN? Well, let's define that. Sovereignty is what? To operate autonomously, right? To govern oneself, correct? To rule over oneself. Right? Sovereignty. U.S. has not given up any sovereignty. Not a long shot. Though we have other problems. Keep in mind, there's a host of spirits. Simply ready. They're ready. Okay, folks, listen, I'll be back in a few minutes right here at CoT. And I'll come back and close and take some questions, a few more. Then I'll come back. We keep getting these, I'm not in the best position right now to broadcast. And so the system is kind of pausing on me, going red. Then it comes back in again. So thank you for dealing with me on that. That's my end, though. It's my end is falling apart here. I'll be right back in a few minutes right here at CoT. What do you want this world to look like? What would you like it to become? Yeah, music is on. What would you guys like for this world to look like in 2025? What would you want the world to become in 2025? What do you want it to look like? Now, remember, we have a diversity of people on the earth, right? We have some who believe and some who don't believe yet. We have some of different faiths, right? Different value systems. Take all that into account. What would you want the world to look like in January of 2025. What would you like to see? I see the usual answers. I'll tell you what. You know what I'd like to see? I would like to see people fighting for people again. Not people fighting against people for their favorite people, no. No. I like to see humanity care for humanity again. It's very simple. Something that happens that requires a process to happen. This brings up something else. Listen, you ready? Most people would like to see beautiful things, right? Do you not realize that no beautiful thing happens to any of us until tragedy comes? Have you noticed that so many times humanity has gotten complacent with what they had? So much so they began to fight each other. Then when those fights take a toll or calamity comes, only then do people have an ability to look at the hurt of their fellow man and say, let me go lend them a hand. Only in the works of helping somebody else does a person remember the value of that other person. And it's only at that point do they often remember they too are human beings. Then they begin to see they're of the same family. After all that takes place, we always have years of prosperity. Do you know that? Those are the steps. And it all begins with calamity. Why calamity? Because once calamity comes and it strips away from us all these things we have deemed important. Because whether you realize it or not, before every calamity, every person becomes an expert on what everything is. Every single time. Every single time. So many people become an expert on what everything is, they quit listening to each other. They only argue about what something is. Then calamity comes. Strips people of what they had. Breaks up families. People have great losses. But only through those losses can a person remember how precious and rare humanity really is. And the process begins again. That happens over and over again. So let me ask you something else. How many times is the Lord going to suffer us to go through this same process? Only to have us end up back at square one again. Because something should be obvious by now. You ready? Ready for the answer? What's the obvious part? We don't have an ability to maintain a paradise. We always corrupt our own paradise. We've had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to stay in an area of decency, of caring, right? Strong family, of the value systems, the whole, all of it together. We've had so many opportunities to maintain these things, but we do not. You know what always happens? You know what happens as soon as we come into a time of plenty? The old human factors kick in again. This is Satan overcoming us. Greed, hypocrisy, right? Violence for more greed. People begin to argue on who's right and who's wrong. Right now in politics, there's a fight over what America is. Is it a Republican America or is it a Democrat America? I'm talking about the two sides, you know. There's always a fight of what something is. Indeed, the whole world is in a fight over what a nation is. We don't have an ability to maintain a paradise. We don't. If for some reason God blessed us, he blessed the socks off of all of us, we would not have an ability to maintain it. Satan would always overcome us. We keep losing. Why though? Pride. Pride is the doorway. It is the reason we keep losing. Pride. Right? Listen, because we can't help but to teach a person, and we do this sincerely, after we learn great lessons in life and start to rebuild, and everything looks beautiful and people get along, the first thing we say is, son, daughter, be proud of what we have done today. And they say, oh, yes. And they say that with a genuine heart. They're proud of it. But then guess what comes with being proud of something? You defend something. So you look at it and you're highly appreciative. And you are proud of it, right? It's an accomplishment. All of a sudden you begin to defend it. Now, to defend something, you need enemies. And so what normally happens in the absence of known enemies is everybody becomes an enemy. And then there are ideological enemies, which means a person who does not agree with your way of things is an enemy. Thus, paradise falls again. It happens this way every time, and it never ceases. To have something be built up and fall, be built up and fall, be built up and fall. That's getting kind of close to something being hell on earth, isn't it? But that's the way we are. Fickle creatures we are. Sottish children we are. We are. Well, guess what? If we can identify that we don't have a capacity to maintain a paradise, then our need of the Lord will strengthen. It will increase. When we see that if God blessed us, as he has done so many times before throughout history, but that we don't have an ability to maintain it, it makes the necessity of our Creator even greater. The necessity of the Messiah's way is even greater. Right? So long as we think we're right in something, we will not do it the Lord's way nor the Messiah's way. We're going to do it the way we think the Lord would like to have it done, or the way we think God would like to have it done, which, by the way, differs from your neighbor's view. Do you all see that? Do you see that? So we certainly can't establish a paradise, but there is something we can do. We can encourage, now that we know that we cannot maintain a paradise, but our Lord is coming to initialize it forever, right? We can actually go out and begin to prepare people with the Lord's truth, not ours, but the Lord's truth. What the Lord had revealed in your life will give you courage to continue so that truth of his can actually reach somebody else. You're the Bible he's sending. You are. You're the Bible he's sending to somebody else. You are. Once you admit the frailties, once you admit that, no, we can't hold on to a paradise, it makes the necessity of the Creator even that much more important. This election. We fall for the same thing all the time, don't we? We say that guy is going to fix this and this and that. We say that with each president. And we're back at square one every single time. We should know by now. We're not going to have paradise here on earth. We're not going to deliver ourselves. We're not going to establish some type of utopia here. Not some real utopia for everybody. A deceitful one, yes, but not a real one. We can't do it. So Christ is of the greatest necessity. My advice in this day and age that we live in is, first, come to terms with how many times we've actually, kicked the bucket. And begin that track. To have it in your mind to assist your fellow man of both the stories, those things, and remind him that he has an ability to reestablish everything, but it will always take the Messiah to maintain it. Remind people, this is the last time. Just like Jesus said, these are the last times. This is the last time. The last time. The last age. The last era. The last do-over. This is it. That's it. There are many born into this world right now that naturally have no placement here. Folks, I'm not going to hold you up too much longer. Not going to do that. Channel 0 is going to remain on, naturally. It will. I will probably have a midnight-hour talk, a small one, a spiritual talk with some of you guys, as we continue to prep for some things, some times that will surely come. Now, Channel 0 is a perfect channel for certain topics, because I'm not really looking at the screen when I'm talking on Channel 0, right? It'll be my coming out of prayer channel, my emergency channel, something like that. Plus, people aren't chatting on Channel 0. They're just listening. So it's a pretty good, or those type things. I'll likely be on Channel 0. I will. I still, listen, these times are challenging, yes. There will be many obstacles ahead of us, a host of them. But you would not be alive today if you were not able to overcome what the Lord has put in your life. Folks, God bless each of you. I'm going to see you guys sometime in the wee hours of the morning. But I will. Keep your prayers up for all those who have been affected by these storms. Keep in mind that we have another one that could potentially form and be just like some of the other ones. Listen, it's the measure of how you get up from these storms that matters. We're going to have storms. We're going to have mishaps. We're going to have setbacks. Right? We're going to have that. This stuff on this earth, it is just stuff. Never forget, life is what's precious, not the stuff. God bless and keep all of you. I'm going to see you next time right here on COT. All right? God bless.